See that, okay? Please enjoy the animations. I enjoy creating them, and I hope you will all enjoy watching things flying across the screen. So I am the academic support manager at the University of West London. And along with that, I'm also a subject librarian for the creative arts as well as the School of Medicine and Biosciences. And I think this dual role of engaging students and then measuring impact as being a librarian and being a manager sort of helps me to see the two sides of the coin. And so I'm just going to talk to you a little bit today about information literacy through engagement, empowerment, value, and impact. So let's begin at the beginning. What do you mean by information? We're looking at information as an answer, as a fact, as an opinion, and as a viewpoint. And the reason I put some things together is because I had students talk to me in class and say, what do you mean by opinion and viewpoint? Is it the same? And when you are talking to creative students, they have a lot of questions. And it is, I think, important to try and differentiate what we mean by that. So, what is information literacy? And the fact that we know what the format means based on Scornell's pillars for information literacy, but just sort of thinking how critical a skill set it has become in the digital age, in the age of artificial intelligence, in the era of fake news. It is interesting. It is what do I say, innovative. It's also very scary. When I talk to students about information literacy, I try and make it more relatable. So I'm talking about discerning between real information and fake news, discerning between information choices, discerning between what they think is really relevant to them, but more with respect to not just their assignment or their module or their course, but with regard to daily needs, employability, a lot to do with their health choices, and thinking of them as global citizens. Putting these five components of information literacy into a framework for them and trying to show them where you can uh, link it up. Because sometimes students think of information literacy just as a concept that the subject librarian comes into the class and talks about once a year and then goes away. So I'm trying to make it more relevant to them, more linked to exactly what they do, not just in terms of the assignment, but also in terms of life and living. And focusing on the word critical and trying to explain to them just how important it is. So, engagement, looking at the four concepts of information literacy linkages that I am about to speak, looking at engagement. So, engagement is basically, and a dictionary definition, interest, enthusiasm, and active participation. In a large classroom of, say, 200 plus students, and you on the podium as a librarian running through a series of slides in a PowerPoint presentation, how difficult or easy it is to build up interest, enthusiasm, and participation can be challenging. Some of the things that I do is I have worksheets, I use a quiz, uh, sort of handouts, in a smaller group, it's more easy because there's always scope for a reflection to give them time to reflect on maybe an earlier assignment or something that they did previously, how they did it, how they found the information for it. Uh, in terms of digital training, hands-on sessions works. I think because attention span is limited to 20 minutes, beyond 20 minutes, it is very difficult to get students to engage. So to design a session where after 20 minutes, the activity changes. So if they are listening for 20 minutes, after 20 minutes, they should be doing something else. So basically in a 1 hour slot, if you can have 3 bits of it and change the way in which they engage, that works. And I have found that that works for me as well. So I follow that. Also, we do have at the university things where, like a flipped classroom, there are videos that the students can see before the session, and then the session itself, the information literacy session itself, is just a Q&A thing. So that becomes a lot more engaging than having to look at slides. And the one-to-one sessions with students, I absolutely enjoy those. It gives me an insight into what students are researching, what they need to do, what their deadlines are. But more than that, it helps me to understand what students think, how they relate, and that itself forms the basis of my sessions going forward. So this is a worksheet that I designed that I give out in class to be done in small groups. And I think things like these are part of the universal design of learning because it becomes more inclusive, allows students to participate in small groups. Uh, because I am also a subject librarian for the creative subjects, that music and performing arts, it's difficult to engage learners sometimes in those things, uh, in things like the boring, what they call information literacy. I have walked into classrooms and have students strike out a really theatrical pose. I wish I could do that sitting where I am now, but it's something like that. And it says, I'm an actor. Why do I need to learn all of this? So trying to relate to them and trying to engage with them. An activity that I did was in a room, I put out a series of tables and lots of printouts of information, whether it is a page from a book, a journal article, a blog, a magazine. And then they went around those tables trying to figure out which ones were fake news, which one had good information content, which could be used in their bibliography. That activity really took on very well because it was a little of a movement, so didn't have them restricted to sitting in one place for long. Another really interesting thing that went well was I did a debate on referencing in a class where I divided the classroom into two groups. Predominantly the boys yelling, we are better than the girls, and the girls saying, we shall see. But it was really interesting, really engaging. Lots of noise, lots of laughter, but I'm sure lots of learning at the end of it all. Moving on from engagement to empowerment, looking at empowerment as giving the learner the control and agency, uh, making them confident enough to be independent researchers. And a couple of examples that I have put in the slide. In the first session, when I walk into the classroom, I am normally explaining information evaluation and use in terms of how did you come from home to university? How did you find out the route? What was the information sites that you researched? Did you talk to other people? And 1 week into traveling to university, did you re-evaluate that information? And then did you find that the train works better than the bus, but it's more expensive, and the bus works better than the train, but it takes longer. And I will do a different mode of traffic if I have an early morning assignment, a class, and things like that. And so explaining information evaluation to them in their own context of their daily life. Uh, Explaining fake news in terms of forwards on social media, and speaking about very powerful information related domains uh, in an information society, things like questioning the power structures behind information production, who is creating the knowledge, whose voices are included or excluded, what are the first 10 search results that you get from Google? Are they the ones that you really wanted? Has that been pushed from sponsored sources? Lots of those questions, and then thinking about diverse sources, inclusive sources, nudging them on to think about topics for their assignments which might be inclusive. Speaking about AI tools, talking about hallucination, bias, and data privacy. I do a lot for AI, a lot to learn for myself before I can teach students. Attending a lot of conferences, talking to peers, engaging with more of the experts in the field, and just I've pulled on some things from my own research, but some things from what I learned. And apparently, in any AI tool, if you ask for the image of a watch, and no matter what time you tell it, it will always show you a clock like this, which is says 10:10. And I did a little bit of research on it, but apparently the LLMs, or the large language models, have been trained just on this image. And it probably comes from the fact that if you walk into any shop selling clocks and watches, this is the image that you will always see. So that is the information that's gone into the AI model, and that is the information that comes out. So if you ask the AI model to design a clock that says 3:25, it will still show you 10:10. That is something that you can all, at the end of this session, go back and try out and see how it works. You could use ChatGPT, Copilot, or any of the other AI tools that you use. Um, I am going to talk about hallucination because it is in the text, but basically, hallucination is creating information that does not exist. So, if you ask an AI tool for some information, it will pull out stuff from everywhere. And because it wants to please you, if it doesn't know the answer, it will create an answer for you because it always wants to please you as a customer. So sometimes it says that Mr. Brown wrote this article, but if you go and search, there is no Mr. Brown who has written that article. I asked questions to AI about create an image of an academic support manager. So you can see the difference in the gender. Is that what AI thinks? That people working in libraries are predominantly female compared to managers who are predominantly male? This is a bias in AI. These are things that I speak to students about because uh, they will use AI, they are using AI, they just need to be told what exactly AI can and can't do. Lots of these things. I'm happy to talk about AI. I talk a lot about AI. Tomorrow, I am part of the organizing committee that's organizing the Senior Library Assistants Conference in London. And next week, I speak at the M25 conference on prompt engineering. So happy to share thoughts and insights about AI out of this session. But these are things that I speak about. I have put in a really good link for the hallucination bit. That's the slide. So teaching students to ask the right questions. So as you can see, there are two authors. There is a year of publication in a nice bracket along with the title. Everything seems correct. Uh, if you look, the Journal of Molecular Biosciences sounds credible, but such a journal does not exist on Science Direct, which is where they said the link is from. The DOI looks realistic, but it doesn't go anywhere when I paste it in a web browser. The topic looks really nice, but if you can paste it and check, uh, sort of try and do a double check on whatever the AI tool is telling you. And the authors, they are very common names, so they don't seem suspicious. But if you check if the author has written more about the topic, because famed authors normally have multiple publications. And I do tell students to start by looking at authors just by, even Google the authors' names. And normally you will find that they're university professors, they would have written multiple articles. So just a nudge into information literacy. But things like these really sort of stand out in terms of they then realize what information literacy is all about and what they really need to know. So I have spoken about engagement, I have spoken about empowerment. Let's speak about value. When I speak about value, I don't just speak about the price. And we all know from our budgets how much we are paying for large databases like Science Direct or any of the other ones, Academic Search, Elite, and ProQuest. And you are mapping those against the downloads, against the use of it. And you constantly have to explain and you constantly have to recheck whether you can continue to subscribe to that resource another year based on the reducing number of usage. Uh, when I speak about value, I am also speaking about access. And one of the things which I think the earlier speaker also spoke about in terms of economics is that information today has become such a core component that there is this divide. It was a digital divide earlier, it is now an information divide, and we now have information rich and information poor countries. If you have the technology to create something that other people don't, then you are information rich and you have the power to control other nations. And I don't have to dwell more about this. You just have to switch on the television and look at the news today, and you will know exactly what I'm talking about. It is scary. It is scary because that knowledge and that access to that knowledge is what is giving the powers that are control over nations. Coming back to the slide and speaking about value, now that we understand what's the value of information, to understand ethics, how ethical it is, and how important ethics are, how important citations are, how important that acknowledgement is in terms of copyright. Uh, how important it is to think about misinformation. I read a really interesting book called Information Societies. It is available in open access now, and you can easily Google and read that one. But it speaks about misinformation, disinformation, and this whole concept of fake news. And I do nudge students into that direction. And slowly I'm sort of shifting the focus from assignments to real life, because information literacy is lifelong learning. And if you have learned to evaluate before you consume information, then that's a skill that you're going to be using all through life. So, a question that students talk about or might be asking in their minds if they don't ask me, why attend an information literacy session? Some, besides the CRAAP, where we talk about evaluation, besides explaining to them about bibliographies and reference lists and how to do correct referencing, and besides explaining some of these things, I also put in small snippets from my own academic journey, from my journey, from my doctoral journey, aspects like time management, things where I had to juggle a lot, and I'm sure students juggle a lot today as well. We have mature learners who have to juggle a family and the study. And so I think that a little bit of support, that little bit of holistic librarian viewpoint that we have to sort of get students to finish the assignment. No, no, even though you are juggling a lot. And I think that support works. I have students coming back to me sometimes for multiple sessions just to get them through that journey. And I think they often tell me just the deadline works. So sometimes when I have a one-to-one session with them and I just sort of say, would you be able to send me the first draft of your assignment by Friday evening? And they agree. And they say, no matter whether I read it or no, to them, it's a deadline that works for them. And I look at our own roles in this pastoral or holistic way. So we spoke about engagement and empowerment and value, but what is the use of all of these unless we have evidence of impact? And I think that is core because everywhere we need the statistics. We probably have forms that we fill up and we collect all this data, put it in Excel and in tables, and we sort of show how many students we engaged with and what were their grades and lots of projects that we do. Other than that, I think what is important is both the qualitative and the quantitative impact of a session, because that will then uh, show what you're doing in terms of what your job description was when you signed up for this role. That's how I look at it. So KPIs, we have learning objectives, we have KPIs, uh, lots of research projects based on the student output. Uh, Students write to me and I collect those accolades to use them as an impact. And I've had a couple from students last week as well. Some really good messages from academics. An acknowledgement in the student dissertation, where just after they acknowledge their course supervisor, they acknowledge their librarian. And I think that is an amazing way of collecting impact. So this is the sort of form that we have at the end of every information literacy teaching session. We fill up a form like that, which says what bits of the teaching we did, and we can then make use of that to maybe change the learning objectives the following year or add some more bits depending on the impact. There was a research that I did, a research project that I did, and I presented at the UWL Festival of Teaching and Learning, where I was assessing the impact of personalized information literacy instruction. And I asked students what was their, how did they feel about information literacy at the beginning of the session, at the end of it, and whether that interaction with their subject librarian had raised the quality of their assignment. And small projects like these are really important to change the narrative. Also using uh, the library, not just information literacy, but the library for various other projects. So for summer schools, winter schools, I keep pushing things like these. The core thing is to keep the user at the center of every conversation. So, in all of my bits of engagement, empowerment, value, and impact, I have kept the user at the core of my conversation. create your own value and impact, friends. Learn, teach others, and develop yourselves, develop your university. I've just put lots of things. You can go through that when you get the slides, but things that I do, first to educate myself and educate others and educate my students, and then it is a constant learning process. That's my best slide. So I use humor. It's engagement and empowerment, but I use images like these. The typical one that I use for my dissertation students when they're stuck with that. So how do I get out of this whole thing? There is too much information, cat. Can I use this resource, cat? The information literacy, cat, which took some time to actually shoot that one. But then there is the referencing cat, and I submitted my assignment cat. And as I go through these, in the course of an hour, I'm asking students which one of these is you. And I think that little bit of humor gets students really interested and gets students engaged, and it sort of resonates with them. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to present here today. Please feel free to get in touch for more innovative ideas. Happy to help. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Janice. That was a really interesting